Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view, from the Casablanca studio in Golden, Colorado. Hosted by Art Carlson. At 4'6", liberals fear him, and conservatives love him. He's definitely a giant among men. Now here's your host, Art Carlson.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking about Something that you thought was dead for decades has raised its ugly head here in Denver, Colorado. A Denver public school decided they're going to have a segregation playground night. Yes, at Centennial Elementary has decided that they're going to have a segregation night. So let's get right into it. Let's bring up my co-host all the way from Muskogee, Oklahoma, Lloyd Mendenhall. Welcome, welcome, Lloyd.
Turn on my
No
mic, you
sound, no
idiot. There
sound.
we
There
go.
we
I'm
go.
out now. Yeah, I forgot to hit the mic button.
There you go.
Anyway, so yeah, how you doing? You had a good show last night, buddy.
Well, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Gave away a bunch of goodies, and
Yeah, you gave away some. I still want to know what sort of filters you have on that damn wheel because it never picks my number. I mean, it's a given, you know. So I need to figure out how to beat the wheel.
yeah, it's been liking those high numbers.
I put high numbers in every time, and it didn't work. So oh well.
Well, 47 and 50 were the
Yeah,
big winners last night. It was
yeah, yeah.
weird.
What wheel do you use? Do you use the one that comes with StreamYards, or have you got another place that you get your wheel from?
Oh, what is the name of that place? It is Prize Wheel,
Prize wheel.
and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Now, yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
at wheel-decide.com.
okay. All right.
That's what I use, and
Yeah. Yeah. I think for tomorrow's on my channel, I'm going to use I'm going to try the StreamYards one simply because but they have to they'll for each giveaway I'll have somebody or I'll come up with a list of words for all the giveaways tomorrow, like hashtag, uh you know giveaway one, or hashtag cup, hashtag mug, hashtag shirt,
okay.
and that way it's a nice setup. It requires the viewers to actually put a little work into it, and it stops any double entries. It only selects single entries.
Oh, okay, cool, cool.
So that it's there. So I think that's what I'm going to try tomorrow. But yeah, you had a great show last night.
Hmm.
I enjoyed
A lot
watching
of
it.
people came in. I got it up to
You were up
48 viewers.
48 viewers. Yeah, you had 48 viewers in there. That's almost a record for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is a record. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. You heard
Alrighty, so
everybody that comes to.
let's go
I was
ahead
reading.
and let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We've got Chris Wedgeworth. We've got Mike B, aka the Drone Ranger, Mason Kaiser, and I think that is it. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. So
So it's a weekend before Christmas, so it's
yes, it is.
probably going to be a light crowd.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mike
yeah.
B says I heard everybody comes today gets it.
Yeah, that would probably get more people in, but it would cost somebody somewhere down the line. So yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh
So
man.
the big hot topic this week was Centennial Elementary School decided that they were going to have uh, people of color playground night at their school. And when I first saw that on Facebook, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was, but it really is true. This school decided to have this segregation night. Hey, let's go back to the 50s. Yeah.
What? Here's two things about that. One, if they call it people of color, Well, that's not segregating anybody because white is a color.
That's true. That's
And two, they can't keep white people away for two reasons. One, white is a color. Two, it's against the law.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I think all the light shaded people, because now if they
Hmm.
called it a, people of shading or people of dark shades, that's a
Uh-huh.
different story. They could get by with us light skinned people. But then you got guys like, some of these gentlemen that live down in Florida, they got darker shades than I do because they get more sun down there, So it's,
Right. Well,
yeah.
down south where you live, they used to have places where drinking fountains. It says colored only. So I guess white people
We
could.
we still had in 1990. This is 1990, not
Wow.
1890, but 1990. We still had two all black schools here in Oklahoma.
Wow.
And you want to know something about that was funny about it? Well, a couple things. One, my daughter, who is very white, blonde hair, blue eyed white girl,
Right.
she was in the last graduating class from the all black high school.
Wow.
It just
So it
so
was a public school then. It's not like it was a private school or
no, it was a public school.
parochial. Yeah.
It was a public school,
Oh, okay.
and but it was in an all black community. It
Right.
was an all black school, but they had white teachers. They had
Hmm.
Hispanics. They had every color. And the thing was is the whole graduating class when they posed for that last, it
Yeah.
was actually funny when they posed for that last picture to be put on the newspaper of the last all black high school. Uh,
Yeah.
my daughter, because she was short than than a lot of the others, she was put down on the front row. So here they're
Oh.
headlines: last graduating class of Oklahoma's last all black high school. Right dead front and center was this little blonde haired, blue eyed gal. They couldn't do any, even when they put it in black and white, she still stood out. So
Wow.
then they had another picture taken for a few days later after the graduation was officially over. Once this was a prequel, like coming, this will be happening on such and such day in June or whatever, and then they showed it again. She was still in the picture because she graduated, but she was put in the back row behind everybody, so she wasn't so prominent. But the lady who spoke at the uh, was at the I don't know if it was at
Mm.
the baccalaureate or if it was at the uh,
Valedictorian?
no, she's the woman. She was part of the Oklahoma State Department of Education. She was one of the
Oh,
uh, uh, oh, not deans, but chancellor. She was the chancellor of the on the board of education in for all the upper colleges, and she spoke at this, and she was railing against the white folks, taking everything away from them. This you got to remember, this is 1989, between 89 and 92 this all was happening. And that was
wow.
when we had a lot of the you had a lot of the white folks. We had people like Eminem, these white rappers, and you
Yeah.
know white people, wearing their hats sideways, or
Yeah.
wearing their, my grandsons, who are, they're Native American, but they're still as white as I am, or almost.
Yeah.
Uh, they were wearing their breeches down around their, butt cheeks, and they got a lot of wedgies when they came to my house like that because I'd lift
Yeah.
their butts up, and they were almost grown by well, when I was doing that when they were in their 20s, they come by with their breeches hanging down. I'd grab that thing and I'd give them a wedgie so far up that it took them half an hour to get their breeches back down to normal. But anyways, that was a lot of that, people imitating stuff, and this is what she was railing against. Well, they've got, and it wasn't until she was halfway through that she looked out in the audience and saw 6 or 7 whites all in one little section. That was me, my my son, my daughter-in-laws, my Judy,
right,
my mom and dad, a couple other white members of the family, and she came and apologized to us. She says that sounded very racist, and I didn't mean for it to be that way.
right.
You know, and now we're going right back to that.
Yep.
You know,
Howdy,
uh,
Chris. Dot Murdoch. Welcome. So, there's been a suit filed. What was it? Civil rights lawsuit filed against DPS, and because of all of this. Because I mean, I grew up in the '60s, and I
right?
remember Martin Luther King always saying he wanted his kids to be uh, considered on their content of their character instead of their
The color of
color.
their skin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I thought that's what we were striving for. Now I feel like we're going backwards with
yeah.
these.
We really are. I remember, when I saw that topic for today, that you had listed, and I looked at that, and I'm thinking, I lived in Denver when we desegregated, when our schools became desegregated, and I remember busing. I remember the race riots, and there were a lot of them. They'd bring these they'd bring these whites into these black schools, and they'd bring, yeah, and it wasn't just the whites and the blacks that were fighting each other. We had the Browns. They were as upset about it because they had their communities and their community schools, their neighborhood schools. They all lived in those communities. They didn't want to go halfway across the city and an extra half an hour to an hour ride time on a bus to be taken to a school where they knew nobody and where, in essence, they were the minority. Because when they desegregated those schools in the 60s in Denver in the busing situation, they didn't do a complete even split. You know, they took a half a dozen white kids and put them in with 3 dozen black kids, or a half a dozen Hispanic kids and put them in with 3 dozen white kids. I mean, that was the ratio. It wasn't a desegregation. It wasn't an equaling of it. It was
Right,
just forced. Uh, they were trying to morally force the people into believing a certain way. And
right,
and I mean, it was, segregation was a bad thing. I'm not sitting there, now in Denver we didn't have a whites only. I don't ever remember seeing in growing up a whites only
mhm,
water fountains. I never saw
right,
that, but and we I remember this was back in the 60s. There was my dad knew a guy. I guess he'd worked with him for years, and we'd go over to his house, and he was an unbelievable trumpet player. This guy I just love listening to his music, and that's where him and dad got to be good friends, because they both love music, and of
right,
course dad was country, and he was, he actually played for the Denver Orchestra, Philharmonic Orchestra,
mm,
you know
wow,
and was first chair in their brass section of in the trumpets.
mm, yeah,
And we went to his house. He came to our house. It was never a problem. It was just, uh, but then we were told by the government that we were racist and we needed to all mix together. And it's like, I never understood that as a kid. I never understood that. And and now they're going back again, and you know, uh, I mean, just you think about it, this is something that's always bothered me. The
mhm,
NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Now, calling, I mean, we quit using the term colored for blacks 50 plus years ago. You know, that was a term that it quit. They quit using that, but yet they are a group that predominantly only cater to blacks and or Africa, those of African descent, or whatever the particular uh, catchphrase of the day is, and they they bring these lawsuits up, and it's just not. They represent the blacks, but yet they
They
uh,
don't want to, be part of the society. They want to
no,
be separate. They want
yeah,
special uh, privileges
right,
because it's like instead of being equal like everybody else, it's like the Black Caucus in Congress. You
yeah,
know, and what's really funny is if you're a Black Republican, they won't allow you to be part of the Black
that's
Caucus.
right, because you don't follow their agenda. Now, and
Hmm.
here's uh, just so nobody misunderstands anything I might say. Actually, let me see if I can. I don't know if I can find the pictures now, but we'll keep talking about it while I look. Uh,
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to bring up a good friend of mine. He's been on this show, Jimmy Sengenberger. He's a political activist, and he has his own radio show here in Denver. I think on
right.
KNUS. He did a column. He had a column for the Denver Gazette, and it's about segregation, and I'll post the link to his article. It said it was March 1924, and the Ku Klux Klan was it was at its apex of power in Denver. The forces of
Right.
racism controlling the Denver Public School Boards of Education decreed that in the future, separate social functions will be provided for color and white pupils. The racist policy was necessary, they claimed, because of certain unpleasant incidents. Within the
Yeah.
past 2 or 3 years between the colors and white pupils, they even swore that it was for the benefit of the colored students, since the opportunity will be given to colored pupils to request that provisions be made for their social activity. Fast forward nearly 100 years, the CPS Centennial Elementary School has brought back the KKK era approach with a monthly Families of Color playground night.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Uh, when you go back on, I actually was looking at some of the stuff on desegregation and the different rules of, separate but equal. The problem that originally happened was in the separate but equal was there was never an equal. Now, uh, I I I don't agree with separate but equal, but I also didn't agree with forced busing because I thought that actually created more animosity and created. But we moved past that. We moved on. We
Hmm.
moved forward. And now we're moving backwards again. And it's and here's the thing. I've been watching this guy on social justice warriors. I mean, I'm seriously considering of converting switch completely to chocolate milk because I feel like every time I drink a glass of milk, I'm being racist. Uh, and there's these social justice warriors out there that they say some of the craziest stuff. And they're the ones pushing it. But I noticed that almost all of the people in these videos that are talking about this in these tweets, they're all white people.
Hmm.
You don't see the blacks out there creating problems about this, and he, she, they, them, and whatever else. They're just they're being it's these knobs that got or being indoctrinated by these stupid let's see, I'd probably get further if I went down this way. Uh,
Hmm.
there's the picture I'm looking for right there. Give me just a second because I want to bring this up.
All right, we'll do that.
Uh,
Oh,
and
and speaking, if you go to Berkeley University in California, uh, some of the blacks want their own all black dormitory.
right,
I mean,
right. There we go.
so so they want to take these public institutions and segregate them. It's not like Howard University, which was uh, an all black university, and I mean that's a private institution where you
Yeah,
got a public institution like Berkeley. It just didn't make sense to me. I just thought it was really dumb, and but it just all goes back to the the Democrats and the leftist progressives. They want to divide this nation.
right.
So and that's what all of this is about. It's not
I'm gonna
about
put this.
you know making
I'm gonna put
everybody
this picture
equal.
over here real quick, just so
Okay.
anybody doesn't get the wrong idea. But these are my great grandchildren.
Wow.
You know, and this is back several years ago, but uh, and unfortunately, we have not been able to. Uh, and they're mixed race, but we have not been able to see them because their mother lost custody, and but
Oh,
they were adopted by another family member on her father's side of the family. But
right.
those are my great grandchildren. Judy and I are proud of them. I mean, uh, it's just so that's a fan right there. That's exactly what Martin Luther King was talking about. That's the kind of stuff that he was wanting. Where we were all get along. I mean, I never forget going up there when the three boys were born. When the first of the three boys were born, because they three oldest boys had the same father, and of course my granddaughter was their mother, and then the little girl had a different father, and she's only quarter black because her dad was half black and half white. And then the
Right.
littlest one, I'm not even sure about him. He kind of popped up. We never got to really meet him. Uh,
Hmm.
but I remember going to the hospital that first time and meeting the boys' the older boys' grandmother that was you know on the other side of the family, her great grandmother.
Right.
And I was never more struck, and she was black. I
Right.
was never so struck by a racist woman in my life. Here we
Mm.
were, up there to see our great grandchildren being born. These were our first great grandchildren, you
Hmm.
know, and we were there to see that. And this woman was just, and finally I sat down next to her. I said, "Ma'am, have I done something to offend you?" She said, "Oh, well, no, sir. No, sir." I said, "Then why are you treating us with such animosity?" I said, "I'm not sleeping with your daughter. I'm not sleeping with you. Our grandchildren got together and did something that I don't approve of because they're not married. But what's that have to do with what you're?" I said, I hate to say this, and I said, this may sound like the craziest thing you've ever heard, but ma'am, you're a racist. Her mouth hit the floor and she backed up and she stopped for a second. She says, "Oh my God, I am so sorry." I said, "My wife is over there ready to bawl her eyes out because she's here to see her great grandson being born, you know, and you're over here making derogatory comments." And you know, and he wanted peace between the races, not this Malcolm X crap that the NCAA promotes. And actually, uh, Malcolm X actually, of course, he was black Muslim, but he actually turned away from, and that's why he was killed, from the American Black Muslim movement, because he went to Mecca, and he and both he and I want to say Cassius Clay, and that's not his name. That just shows you my age.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali. Oh my God, I'm still stuck on Cassius Clay. But they both went to Mecca and they sat down and talked with each other and realized that what the American black Muslims were teaching was racism, and they didn't approve of that. And
Yeah.
they were teaching hatred, and in their world, Islam meant peace.
Right.
And
Hmm. Yeah, and then
so
that's when he discovered that there were different colors of Muslims. There were white
mhm,
Muslims. There
yes,
were Muslims with red hair, blue eyed, and white. And I mean,
yeah,
you
and
go over to
to the,
Iraq. Remember that one guy that was uh, he was high up in the government, and I think it was yeah, it was in Hussein's
oh yeah,
administration. He was the redhead.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'll give you a better example. Have you seen Jeff Dunham around the world? Any of those videos that Jeff Dunham did? They're in
no,
London, and he likes to pick on people down in the front row. And they pick out this guy that's a heavy set. He looks like he's part Scottish, and like he's a Scotsman. And they ask him his name, and his name is Nabil. Is that like an English name? He says, no, that's an Iraqi name. He goes, what the hell? I go half around the world, and I'm in London, and I get the asshole from Iraq. Yeah, he didn't look like an Iraqi. He looked, like
yep.
you and me. He wasn't dark skinned. And of course the guy says, I can't remember that name. Can I call you Bob? Yeah, okay, that works. Yep. But it was the funniness of it, because and going to what Mason says right there. If we get rid of BLM and Antifa, and if
Yep.
you will notice, for example, we had back when the first BLM protests were around, I guess it was the George Floyd thing or something after that. I can't remember. I've
Right.
lost track. They've had so damn many of them now. I can't keep track. But they decided to have a protest here in Muskogee. And I drove by, and I looked, I had to go across town. I went right in front of them. They were downtown doing their thing, holding their signs up. And I was like, okay, whatever. They were supporting whatever black movement that was at the moment, whatever was in vogue that week, or that
Right.
month.
Hmm.
And it was summertime. We had a cop sitting there, and he was in his car running the car, and he was sitting there with his air conditioner on. These people were standing out there sweating their asses off, waving their signs, and there was maybe 8 of them all together. It was a huge crowd. I mean, it was massive movement right there. It was a huge crowd. I almost couldn't get through the traffic,
Hmm.
and it was 7 white folks and one poor black gal that was stuck out there with these village idiots, and she was
Right.
sweating her ass off, and you could tell she was ready to go home.
Hmm.
Now there was another movement a few days before that, but they had a very nice, peaceful protest, and it wasn't supported by the BLM. This other group with all these white folks and one black person, because they wanted to keep it equal because Black Lives Matter. They were all white folks, and then you notice in 90% of all of these riots and stuff, it's the BLM are whites, and
Hmm.
uh, and I'm going to say it's probably about a 80 to 20% split. I mean, I don't know that anybody's ever. Now the blacks get involved because a lot of them is their community that's getting burned down and destroyed, and they're getting pissed off about how this is being handled now. They're not happy, and but this segregation thing that's coming up, this is a bunch of socialist namby-pamby whiny kids that have been given a little electoral power. They followed the rule book. They got elected to the school board or whatever. That's where you start out. You start out the school board and work your way up, and they
Well,
played the game.
to touch on that, we have a young black gentleman that was elected to the Denver School Board, not this last cycle, but the cycle before that. Big time racist. His name is Kay Anderson, and he's using his position to get free stuff from people. Uh, he got some chick pregnant, and so he goes on Facebook and says, "Oh, could you please? I have a registry at Target. Could you uh, help me buy some diapers and formula and stuff?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute! This guy's been elected to a position on a school board, even though it's not paid. So it's not like the legislature where they
Right,
have
right,
to
right.
report stuff like that and they can't take freebies like that. So this guy
Yeah.
he's a racist. He goes to all these events and he's like one of those soccer players where he falls down and goes, oh, the cops are beating me up. Oh, the cops pushing me.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the problem with these liberal cities and these liberal governments is
And
they're
he just
playing it.
became vice chairman or vice chairman of the board.
Yeah, because nobody's going to argue against it.
Oh, they're
Because
afraid of
otherwise,
him.
that's
Yeah,
right.
the other
Because you'd be
people on the
racist.
board, they're afraid of him.
Yeah. I
And
now
a lot
I'm
of
going to say
people
this.
they think that this guy is using this as a stepping stone to maybe run for city council of
Oh
Denver
yeah,
or
yeah,
mayor or maybe
and
a state
that's
rep.
and that's how politicians used to start out. They start out with the school board, and
Yep.
I mean that's where
Mhm.
a lot of them started out back, you know, 50 years ago. You know, this guy ran for the school board, and then he'd go for the city council, and from the city council he'd
Yep.
run for mayor, and then he'd run for local state legislature, and then
Yep.
maybe the House, and then the state Senate, and then move on up to Congress, the national House, and then eventually Senate, and and that's the way these people did this. But this we are scared to say anything to these people because we'll be labeled a racist. There's a guy, and I can't remember. I think it's called. I'll have to look it up here in a minute, and I'll put the link up to this guy. This guy goes through these compilations, and you just it's one of those when they go down through it. He says, if you cringe, you win. That means your brain is working. And when you see some of this on Twitter and Facebook, you know, and if you cringe at that, well, that means you're using your brain. But if you go, oh yeah, because I mean they've made everything. They've actually there's one person that's gone out and said, and they've got like 80,000 likes off of stuff like this, but old people should not be getting the COVID vaccines because most old people are white, and that's racist. They should save it for those downtrodden that like the blacks. The younger people are more black than there are whites. So
Mhm.
the old people are all white, so they shouldn't get the COVID vaccine. And now, if that's not a friggin' racist statement, and it gets like 80,000 likes,
Yep.
there are stupid people out there,
Yep.
you know,
That's right.
and they're gullible, and it's because we're not teaching history. I mean, I actually looked up the major key points of how desegregation and how it eventually came about in all the different rules. And uh, it has a long sordid history. I mean,
Mhm.
it starts with the Emancipation, and then initially it starts with the 14th Amendment, you know, and then you go through all that, and then you got you jump up 19 it was 1946 or 47 that Harry Truman finally desegregated the military, and uh, and then you had you had the Supreme Court come along, you got the Arkansas Nine, and finally Dwight Eisenhower stepped in on that one, sent in the National Guard, and but what was funny is before that, Arkansas, one of the University of Arkansas had already started admitting blacks and whites, and then we started having I don't know, it was in the 70s, I think, and it wasn't until just like in the 80s that the Virginia Military Institute finally started admitting women,
Yep.
and
Yeah, that was VMI.
yeah, BMI,
Virginia
and
Military
the
Institute.
stuff, and now we've got to start using the pronouns he, she, it, them, they, them, whatever.
Yeah.
What the hell? Your name is George. I'm going to call you George.
Yep.
If you go by the name of Sally and you're still a George, I'm going to call you Sally. If that's what you tell me your name is, okay. Well, maybe it's short for Salvador. Hell, how the hell would I know?
Democrats are always saying it's about the science. Yet science says we are all born with either X or Y chromosome, and you can't change that. And that's what determines your gender. So if they're about the science, they got it. More people should bring that up and say, "Hey, wait a minute, what about the science? You can't change your chromosome. I mean, you can physically change your body. You can change
your anatomical
hormones, and
but
you
you
can
still
have
can't change your DNA.
What's his name whacked off, or get an addictomy and become a man. Speaking of addictomy, how about that guy that became a woman and now he's breaking all these swimming records?
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that there's going to be some lawsuits. They're going to have to, and here's the thing. What is the percentage of actual citizens around the world that fall into these categories of I identify hello Grant.
Hey, Grant.
I identify as personally, I think I should be getting Section 8 housing. I should be getting food stamps. I should be getting a lot more money than I am because I personally identify as an African American Latino straight female.
Mm-hmm. That's like down in Australia where the kangaroo wants to identify as a koala.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to come out right now. I'm going to say it on your show. Okay. I'm a lesbian
as opposed to not being on.
Right. I am a lesbian stuck in a man's body.
Right.
People go, what? If you have to think about that too much, you need to start looking in the mirror more often. But this is the stupidity. We've got a minority of ignorance that we're allowing to run this country and to make decisions, not just here, but around the world. I guarantee you, China ain't having this problem. Yeah, I just fell out of the closet. Yeah,
well,
I'm a lesbian.
You know what? If I were to say I was gay, I could say I came out of the cupboard.
There you go. You came out of the cupboard. But this is the stupidity, and we've yeah, I'm going to show that. I'm sure I'm not sure he's referring to us as dumbasses or the idiots that are trying to run the world. I'm either one probably applies at this point of the show. But it's I was listening to, I can't remember who it was. Was it who's the he's the Democrat that is senator that is supporting. He's against the Build Back Better thing. Is it
Oh,
Manchin?
that's Mansion out of
Manchin.
West Virginia.
Yeah, I was listening to him talk about that, and he says we've got China firing, these rockets that can, enter, these. What kind of rocket was it that they just fired off that they just tested these uh, subsonic rockets that they've just tested
No,
in
they're hypersonic.
hypersonic. That's it,
Yeah.
hypersonic. Okay. Anyways,
Hmm.
they just tested a hypersonic. Uh, it was about the Department of Defense. They tested a hypersonic missile, and the Department of Defense is more worried about whether we should use he, she, they, them, it not,
Right.
or whatever. The DOD has got more important things to worry about than a bunch of mamby-pambies that want to be in the military. I
Right.
saw a picture of a gal that she's got this, she's a woman. She's got long curly hair and all. Yeah, thank you. Love my drones. I had a brain fart on that because I just saw this. But anyways, she has all curly hair, but then she shows that she has her hair pulled back in a bun and she's wearing a military uniform. She says, "Do you know how long it takes me to do this? Why does this make me a better commander?" Well, I have one answer for somebody who was in the military. You're part of a team. And the first thing we learn in basic training is we all come in there. Some of us had our hair down to here. Some of us had it cut short. Some of us some of the guys had afros. You know, they had goatees. This is the '70s, so this kind of shit that went on back then.
Right.
But when we got there, by the end of our first 24 hours, we were all alike. We were all bald-headed, slick-sleeved green men. We wore a green uniform with no stripes. We had the same friggin' haircut. We slept in the same, the same bunks,
Yeah.
and we all had to polish our boots the same because we were learning what it was like to be part of a team. They strip away your individuality and make you a team member. That's
Right.
why the women have their hair done that way. So they're no better, because who's to say the gal with the short bob straight hair isn't jealous of, Goldilocks with her long curly hairs, So now she feels inferior to this person. Here's this. This is the well, stupidity. That's not the word I was looking for, but this is
Mindset.
this. No, the mindset, but the stupidity of these people is that they 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 want, well, I would look better this way. This doesn't make me any less a commander. It doesn't make you any better one either, but it makes you stand out from all the rest because, like, oh man, look at that gal. She's got good hair. And somebody who might be having a bad hair day because their hair just sucks naturally. Now they're feeling bad when they go into work and, they pull out their gun and cap 6 people because their hair didn't look nice that day. I mean, that's why we have these standards and practices in the military so that we all adhere to a same basic thing because we are all members of a team. And now we've got the Department of Defense. All of those generals must have put, I'm afraid some of those generals, they've been in that job so long that, and the last time they went to Walgreens, they pick up the wrong package of Depends and they got the ladies' Depends instead of the men's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they're a bunch of panty waste up there in Washington now. And I've never been more furious or more embarrassed. But this is the mindset of everybody we've got,
Right. Right.
in our government. And these are but this is a minority of people that are making decisions for the majority of the people. This is the reason. This is the reason we went into Iraq to throw out Saddam Hussein, because that was a minority group of people that were being ruled, or that was a majority group of people that were being ruled by a minority group.
Yeah.
Apartheid. Let's just say apartheid right there. We are now getting our own version of apartheid. It's white apartheid now.
Yep. Yep. And this goes all the way back to when Obama was president. And that's when the division really got started.
He started it on his first 100 days.
Yep.
I mean,
Hmm.
boy, he jumped in feet first in racial divide right there on the spot,
Right.
and he
And
did
I
more for.
think a lot of the white people that voted for him, I think they were all hopeful. Oh, this first black president, he's going to unify all the different races, and we're going to all be as one. And he was the opposite.
Yeah, my our own physician, he voted for Obama the first time,
Yep.
and within 6 months, he was, we went up to see him, and he told us that, and I just said, "Bless your heart." I said,
Yeah.
"Buyer's remorse." He said, "Oh hell yes."
Yep.
I said,
I bet they're
"The
saying
man's
the
a
same
social."
thing about Biden now. I mean,
Oh yeah,
look,
well
this
he
guy
didn't
is
vote for Biden.
so incompetent. I mean,
Yeah,
everything he's done is just
it's been
wrecked
a
the
Charlie
economy.
Foxcroft. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's
He
been
comes in, first thing he did, we're going to shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. We're not going to allow drilling on public lands. We're going to regulate the hell out of the oil, gas, and coal industry.
yeah.
And they even admitted they wanted to put these people out of business.
They said it before
What?
they got elected.
Yep.
They
And
said they were going to put him out.
so
What do you,
we're supposed to get all our electricity, all our power from solar and wind, and which is the dumbest
ask
thing because it's not
ask
windy
Germany?
all the time. Yeah,
Ask
Germany.
Germany from last winter how they feel about it.
Hmm.
Those wind
Yeah, they
turbines
shut
froze
down
up.
all their nuclear power plants. They
Yeah,
started dismantling them, so they went all
they
in
went
on
all
green, and now they're depending on the Russians for their natural gas. For
yes, yeah.
yep.
T
And
Boone
the
Pickens
dumbest
is
thing is Biden said no to Keystone XL, but he gave the okay to the pipeline for the Russians.
yeah. Love my drones. Solar and wind worked out great for Texas. Exactly.
Yep, that's
You
right.
know, we had that's another example, but they were freezing to death over in Germany last year. I hope they've got it
Yep.
solved for this year because we're right now we're having some, but we're in El Nino right now. That's this in El Nino winter, so it's going to be weird. So I expect to have in January ice storms here in Oklahoma, which Judy and I were just talking about that yesterday. I've got to go out and service my generator, make sure it's all ready to uh, go, so I can plug it in and start it up.
Right.
Should that turn into a situation?
Yep. Yeah, and
But
I imagine we're going to have some heavy, wet spring snowstorms here.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
every
I
time we
suspect
have
that after the
wacky weather like this, come March or April, we get
yep.
those 12-inch plus snowstorms.
Well, we had one March, mid March, where we got 24 inches of snow in a day and a half. I mean, it was unbelievable. It's just one of our deepest snows, and as we had a winter like this. I mean,
Mhm.
last night it was down in the low 30s, and by Friday it's going to be in the upper. We're going to be in the low 60s to the upper. We're going to be in the upper 70 or mid 70s
Right.
by Friday and Christmas Day, and our lows are going to be in the 50s.
Wow.
And it's just I'm having to switch back and forth between heating and air conditioning every other day now
Yeah.
because it's
Well,
just crazy.
the other night it got down to 12 degrees.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
then yesterday we got into the 40s, and today we're going to be in the 50s here. Then the
yeah. I
lows will
haven't even.
be above freezing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think we've gotten below freezing yet. That's the thing. We might have. I think we got down to 28 one night here. But that was a month and a half ago. That was in November.
Right.
early November.
So who was? I saw that Kamala Harris got into a beef with some what was it? Talk show host. I think it was God God something. I forgot the name of this guy's name, but he asked her, "Well, who's the president?" I think he was trying to say, "Are you the president? Is Biden president?"
Right, right.
Is and she just tore right into him.
Yeah, well, she's already in enough hot water because she accidentally admitted that they never saw any of the COVID variants coming.
Yeah,
I was hearing about these COVID variants back before the Delta variant ever came out.
right. Hmm.
We
We
went up
had
and
the
talked to a
beta
doctor.
variant, and
Yeah,
yeah,
well, he was telling me. He says this is going to mutate. This is right after it was really when the first time we got to see him, and the Delta hadn't hit yet, and the Beta was just not really. It the I'm sorry, the Beta just wasn't blowing up anybody's skirts at the time. And there's the Delta that really came in swinging, and
right.
now we got the Omicron variant, which is uh uh they
It's
don't
more
know yet.
contagious, but
More contagious,
it's
but less deadly.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like viruses, they they don't want to kill the host.
yeah,
They mutate to a point where you know because otherwise, if they kill the host, well, where are they going to go? Kills
yeah,
them.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. So that's how viruses uh, come and go. We'll have some really contagious and that are deadly viruses like the Spanish flu, and then we
right.
had the Asian flu and the Hong Kong flu, uh, and I remember those when I was a kid, and uh, but we didn't shut down the economy. We had the swine flu, we had the bird flu, we had uh, MERS, we had SARS, and
Well, and
we
and
never
here's the
shut
thing.
down the economy.
So, COVID-19 is just the 19th variant of SARS.
Right. Hmm.
It's just this is what people fail to. They gave it a new name, so it got a new political. You know,
Right.
I would truly like to see the numbers. I mean, the real numbers of how many died worldwide of COVID-19 compared to the bird
Flu.
flu
Yeah.
or the flu or SARS or any of those other
Hmm.
variants of the same thing. As there's all uh, love my drone says he
And
believes it's God
and
given.
who's feeding all this fear? The dominant liberal media.
Yeah.
They're the ones that keep perpetuating this. I'm still seeing people walking down the street with a mask on. There's nobody around them.
Oh, if there's nobody around me, I don't. I did something the other night, and I'm embarrassed to say that it wasn't that I'm becoming a liberal. It's because I'm forgetful. I had to run up to the store and run in, go in and get something for Judy at the store. I put on my mask because, you know, it's Oklahoma. Nobody gets the shots, and half the people are crazy. So I didn't want to, but no, it's just I just choose to because of my system. I ain't worried about. I don't give a damn what anybody else does, but it was me.
Right.
Uh, but then and it was kind of cold, so I was in a hurry, and I ran in and ran out, and I was almost. I was right up here, and the store I went to is like 3.5 blocks away. I was within a half a block of the house before I remembered, man, I'm having troubles breathing. And then I realized I had my friggin' mask on. I drove in the dark by myself, almost home wearing my mask, but I am not a Democrat.
I like what Ed says. I wear my Trump 2020.
Yeah. Well, I have my grumpy. This thing needs to be worse too. Anyways, my grumpy
There
vlogger
we
mask.
go.
I got to tell you something was disconcerting. I took the other day. Judy always has me, empty out my change into a big jar. Well, I took it up to the bank the other day and cashed it in because we do it around Christmas time. And
Were you able to go inside?
I went into my bank. I
Wow,
was
the
wearing
banks
a mask.
around here, the only part that's open is the drive-through.
No, I walked in. Now get this. I walked into my bank. I was wearing a black mask and a hat, just like this one. And I was carrying a
Sunglass?
gun. I
Ooh.
had a gun on my side too. And they all looked at me and said, "Hi, Miss Mendenhall, how you doing?" Because we're allowed to carry guns into some banks. Some banks have rules against it, but it's not a law. If we're an open, we're a constitutional carry state, but yeah, and technically under the concealed carry and any of the carry laws that's in effect here, you're not supposed to wear a mask and a gun at the same time. But that has been sidestepped simply because of COVID, and until the COVID is under control and masks are no longer mandated anywhere in the world, we can wear a mask. But
Mhm.
it's still bothered me. I'm wearing a black mask, and I'm carrying a gun and I'm going into the bank. And I thought, boy, some liberal walks in here and sees this, and they're gonna pee all over themselves and probably
Yeah.
pass out.
Get the vapors. Oh, I got the
Get the
vapors.
vapors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what comes. Yeah, we go into the banks. I
Well,
don't go in very
here,
often. I'm just too lazy to get out. But I had a bag of change, because like when I get change back through the drive-through, I drop it in the cup holders, and then Judy, when she gets in and rides along, she gathers it all up, puts it in a coin purse, and when we get home, she hands it to me and says, "Go put that in the jar." Well, I cashed out $134 of coins.
wow, nice.
So, of course, she got it all. I said, "Here you go." But yeah, I mean, this is what happens. We don't even with the new variant, there are no mandates,
Mhm.
and we haven't had any of that put in place. They talked about it when the Omicron came out, but
Right.
they didn't even put the mask mandates back in place during the height of the peak of the Delta variant.
Oh, I think it was about a month or 6 weeks ago. Uh, the counties surrounding Denver, they've all gone to a mask mandate. So if
Right.
you go into a store or facility that has a lot of people, like, oh, I don't know, like a workout gym, like Cruise or Planet Fitness, you gotta wear a mask. Grocery store, any kind of store, gas station, gotta wear a mask. And I'm betting next November, a lot of those county commissioners are going to get their butts kicked and defeated.
Yeah. At some point, I expect to see Colorado rise up in protest to some of this. I mean, I really
I
think
hope so. I hope so.
I,
But
I
we
don't know
got a
when
lot of.
it may not be in our lifetime, but I expect that someday it's going to turn around because, they turned hard against the conservatives years ago. They may do it again. It's just a matter of because yeah, the looters love the mask. Ed says,
Mhm.
and he's right. But strange times. This is
Yeah.
what I can't believe. We started talking about this COVID stuff and all of this craziness in early 2020. I mean, uh, and I've mentioned it before. I went to the doctor's office, or I went up to the VA hospital, and they had all the doors shut, but this one set of doors, and you went in
Right.
through this. You couldn't go through both sides. You went in through this one side.
Yep.
There's one side in, one side out, and they started checking my temperature and asking me questions. I said,
Yep.
"What are you doing?" She says, "We're practicing for this the COVID influx. We're putting out
Right.
those things that And I'm going, this was in February of
Yep.
2020,
Yeah,
late
I
or early
remember when we
January.
went back to school or to, at, went back to work after the lockdown. We had to wear
Right.
masks
Yeah.
and we had to have our temperature taken. And they say, "Are you? How are you feeling today? Are you sick? Sore throat, runny nose?" And we say, "Nope." And they
But see,
have like the touchless thermometer, and they
right,
tap your
yeah.
forehead. And you're good.
Well, but my point is the U.S. government or at least the VA hospital, they were already taking this serious in the early, before it
Right,
really it hadn't even hit the news. I mean, it wasn't, as far as I knew, it wasn't even in the United States. They were still talking about it still being in England. I mean,
right.
I think it was in February. I think late February, and this was early February or late January when this happened of 2020. So it at most there was maybe one or two cases in the United States. Even
Yeah,
then, I'm not even sure when the first. But that just goes to show you the government already knew what was coming. And then
right.
we got a vice president who just this last week said, "We never saw this coming.
Yeah,
A variant we never, the Delta variant that caught us off guard. Like really, come on, Kamala. That was
yeah.
what a bumbling idiots we got in the White House right now,
Yeah,
or
we
in
sure do. We sure
in
do.
the administration."
Hmm. Well, we did over an hour, so uh, and we stayed on topic for pretty much the whole hour about segregation. And so I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming to the show. You guys have a great Christmas, and
Absolutely.
I, we'll do a post Christmas show next week. So
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
talk about what we got for Christmas.
Yeah, and I'll be doing my show, and tomorrow night I'll do my annual giveaway. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I haven't sat down.
Right,
I haven't looked at see what's available. Because I got two stores now, and so I got to look and see what's available.
right.
So I may still go with Teespring because I think they're still cheaper. So,
Yeah. All
but
right, everybody in the chat. Well, thanks for coming to the show, and we'll catch you next week. God bless and have a great Christmas. Bye bye.
all right. Merry Christmas, everybody.